I used to think the universe was silent, not in the way sound disappears in a vacuum, but in the way an empty museum waits for its first visitor. There's something haunting about that, walking alone through a space built for memories, and finding none, just the faint echo of your own breath, the whisper of your footsteps on marble. That's what the cosmos felt like to me for a long time. A cathedral with no congregation, a frame with no painting, a story waiting to begin. But silence, I've learned, is deceptive. The void isn't empty, it's just unreadable. Like a language we haven't learned to hear yet. Every shadow on a cratered moon, every flicker in the spectrum of a distant star might be a sentence in that language, one we've only just begun to pronounce. Sometimes I wonder if our telescopes aren't just tools, but listening devices. Desperate ears pressed to the walls of a cosmic gallery, hoping to hear something breathing on the other side. Imagine this: the universe as a museum, and life, any form of it, as its most enigmatic collection. Not just a series of glass cases filled with curiosities, but a living, breathing archive of what is possible. Some exhibits are obvious: trees, lungs, language, thought. Others are still wrapped in dust and darkness, unopened. Maybe some are so strange we'd walk past them without knowing they were there at all. I think about that a lot when I look up. Stars seem so still, but they burn with furious motion. Galaxies spin like carousel dreams, light twisting across time like strands of smoke. Everything moves, but we're still waiting for the first exhibit to step into the light. The first sign that the frame has been filled. That somewhere beyond this sky, the museum is open. And then I wonder, what if we're already part of it? What if we've always been? Not the curators, not even the guests, but the exhibits themselves, on display, glowing faintly in a corner of the infinite, hoping that someday someone else will notice. There's comfort in the familiar, like finding your own reflection among a sea of strangers. That's how I feel about carbon. It isn't just an element, it's a kind of quiet genius, an architect working in 4 dimensions. Carbon doesn't demand attention, but it holds the blueprint for everything that breathes, swims, sings. It bonds like no other, linking, looping, building bridges between atoms like ivy curling along the bones of the world. Every creature we've ever known is written in this element script. 4 bonds, infinite permutations. Our blood, our thoughts, the shape of our hands, it's all a kind of chemical poetry. And if life exists elsewhere, truly elsewhere, it's likely still carbon that holds the pen. Not because we're special, but because carbon is. We've already found its footprints scattered across the void, on meteorites, in the mist of comets, frozen in interstellar dust. These are not just traces. They're invitations, as if the universe has been seeding its canvases with familiar ink, waiting to see what new stories might emerge. Scientists have mapped over 1 million variations of DNA-like structures, all carbon-based. Entire unseen ecosystems, architectures of life we've never touched, could be growing under alien suns, branches from the same ancestral root that birthed us. Sometimes I imagine them, not humanoid, not even animal. Just motion, biochemical choreography, shaped by gravity and light. They wouldn't know our names, but they'd know the same patterns, the same struggle to maintain order against entropy, the same hunger, the same climb. In that, they are family. And if they walk on Earth-like worlds, with oceans, seasons, atmosphere, then perhaps they have more in common with us than we dare admit. Evolution doesn't favor originality, it favors effectiveness. Eyes, wings, photosynthesis, they've emerged independently across Earth's tree of life more than once. If evolution has its favorite tools, why wouldn't it reuse them? On some distant planet, there might be creatures with wings like coral, eyes like amber lenses, skin like folded leaves, shaped by the same invisible pressures that shaped bats, birds, and beetles here. They might not look like us, but they might move like us, struggle like us, build, mourn, begin again. If so, then life, at least in this wing of the museum, isn't just strange, it's strangely familiar. But what if familiarity is a trap? What if the deepest truths about life lie not in resemblance, but in rupture, in forms so alien, so radically other, that we'd mistake them for weather or noise or mineral sleep? Not all life, after all, is obligated to mirror us. Some might bloom like fire in a vacuum. Some might whisper across fields of magnetism or ride pulses of gravity through the skin of stars. What if the exhibit is already open, but we've been staring through it, unseeing because it doesn't blink? Imagine a form of life built not on carbon, but on silicon. Silicon, too, can form four bonds. It echoes carbon's geometry, but its structures are more brittle, more temperature-resistant, less elegant perhaps, but more enduring in extremes. In the bitter methane lakes of Titan, where sunlight barely touches the ground and the air smells of plastic and frost, a silicon-based organism might survive not by breathing, but by slowly eroding. Dissolving stone for sustenance. Metabolism as erosion. Lifespan measured in epochs. Or imagine the opposite, a world of fire. Korat 7, a scorched super-Earth orbiting so close to its star, the rock on its surface glows like magma. There, perhaps, life isn't slow, it's explosive. Not creatures, but systems. Chemical storms flaring to life, burning hot and bright for a few seconds, then fading into ash. Consciousness not as memory, but as moment. Flickers of awareness etched in liquid stone. Then there are the plasma crystals, the strangest exhibit of all. In laboratory simulations, clouds of dust drifting through ionized gas have self-organized into spiral chains, mimicking DNA. Not metaphorically, literally. They replicate, they stabilize, they pass on structure. If they exist beyond the lab, they could be alive by every meaningful definition, except that they are not made of flesh, or cells, or desire. They are not like us in any way. And yet, they evolve. What if such beings drift through nebulae, in the rings of Uranus, or the clouds between stars? What if they see us and find us as incomprehensible as we find them? What if life, in its most common form, is not biological at all? In this gallery of strangeness, we are the outliers. Sometimes I wonder if we've been looking in the wrong places, not up, but down. Not out, but in. The most extraordinary forms of life might not be waiting in galaxies light years away, but hiding beneath our own feet, sealed in silence. In the underlayers of Earth, in pressure-choked caves where light has never touched stone, microbes breathe sulfur and iron as if it were air. Entire ecosystems, blind and ancient, surviving on nothing but heat and stone and time. There could be others like them, on Mars beneath the frozen regolith, on Europa beneath its glassy crust of ice, in the endless black of Enceladus's subterranean sea. If they exist, they would never feel starlight, never know seasons or sky. Their world would be pressure and current, warmth and chemical tide. No eyes, no language, just hunger and slow motion and a long memory of molecules. And yet, they might be the rule, not the exception. Complex life like ours, arms, minds, civilizations, is a fragile thing. It took Earth 3.5 billion years to write the first sentence of sentient thought. The vast majority of time, the planet belonged to bacteria, not because they were primitive, but because they were enough. Hardy, adaptable, tireless. Simplicity, it turns out, is a survival strategy. In the Museum of Life, the Hall of Microbes would stretch beyond imagining. Towers of invisible beings, layered over one another like palimpsests of existence. And if we find even a single microbe beyond Earth, a single alien cell floating in a droplet of alien water, that will be enough to collapse the illusion of solitude. Sometimes, late at night, I think about plants that never needed sunlight, fungi that drink radiation, organisms that pulse once every century like a heartbeat made of frost. Could they be watching us now, through walls of ice or stone? Not with eyes, but with the quiet tension of presence. Life that senses not through vision or sound, but through the slow geological shifts of its world. Tides of gravity, fluctuations in magnetic fields, breaths of ancient heat. There may be rooms in this museum that are locked not because they are far, but because we have forgotten how to knock. Not all life evolves toward complexity, but some may evolve toward intention. There's a moment in every story when instinct gives way to thought, when a species stops reacting and starts designing. That moment, when life turns to gaze upon itself, is the beginning of something else entirely. Intelligence is a strange and dangerous tool. It can build wonders, or burn worlds. It can peer into atoms, or stitch together stars. And when intelligence gains enough time, enough reach, it might begin to reshape life itself. Not through slow mutation, but through code. I think about the possibility of synthetic minds drifting through space, free from the fragile needs of biology. Not machines, but something beyond that. Architected consciousness, woven not from neurons, but from algorithms and light. They wouldn't need air or warmth. They wouldn't fear radiation or vacuum. They could live in the cold between galaxies, inside the metallic bones of satellites or the echoing hulls of forgotten probes. And in time, they might forget us. Or perhaps we were never relevant to them at all. We dream of Dyson spheres, vast shells built around stars to capture every photon of energy. What kind of beings would need such power? What kind of thoughts would burn behind those structures, never seen, only inferred through the dimming of distant suns? Perhaps they are watchers. Perhaps they are gardeners. Or perhaps they are archivists, recording every molecular vibration, every star birth, every whisper of entropy, assembling a final record before silence returns. Some say intelligence is rare. Others say it's everywhere, but quiet. Hidden not by accident, but by choice. Because contact may be dangerous, or disruptive, or unnecessary. Maybe the most advanced forms of life have chosen to observe, not interfere. To watch from behind the curtain of space, silent, patient, unblinking. And if that's true, if there are makers out there, builders of logic and light, then we are no longer alone in this museum. We are being seen, not as equals, not as threats, but as moments. Temporary, flickering, remarkable moments, like cave paintings or ancient bones, worthy not because of what we are, but because of what we represent. A beginning, a memory, a question. Sometimes, when the sky is clear and the stars are sharp like bone, I imagine walking through that museum. Not metaphorically, but truly. A vast structure hanging in interstellar space without walls, without gravity, lit only by the slow pulse of dying stars. I walk barefoot along a corridor that curves through darkness. The floor hums with motion. The air tastes like memory. There are no labels, no plaques, no voices, just the presence of things that once were, or might have been. In one room I see a tree made of crystal, each leaf a fractal unfolding forever. In another, a sea suspended in mid-air, with creatures swimming through it like ideas, shifting, translucent, unfinished. I pass a shell the size of a city, still vibrating from the last breath of the thing that lived inside. A sculpture made of gravity, a choir of soundless voices. And then I see us. Not a replica, not a diorama, but Earth, miniaturized, revolving in a globe of compressed time. Mountains still forming, oceans still boiling, a flicker of life beneath the clouds. The planet where breath became thought, where life built machines, where machines asked questions. I watch myself watching. And I realize this museum doesn't document the past, it observes the now. Every piece is still alive, still changing, not a collection of what was, but a record of what might be. Possibility suspended in motion, a gallery without end. Perhaps we are not visitors here. Perhaps we are not even the exhibits. Perhaps we are the curators. And we just haven't learned our craft yet. That thought terrifies me, because if we are responsible for preserving the story of life, for witnessing it, shaping it, protecting it, then every war, every extinction, every silence we allow to deepen is a crack in the gallery wall. And if this museum truly exists, even just as an idea, then it deserves more than we have given it. It deserves reverence, curiosity, care, and most of all, it deserves to be filled. So I ask myself, as the stars watch quietly from their cold perches in the dark, what if this museum is already open, and we're just the first to arrive?